Yeah, so obviously today a video from Kind of Funny Games has kind of gone out with Phil Spencer, the head of well, Xbox, and I've seen it's like a 30-second like clip on Twitter with him going on about apparently like Xbox One being a really bad generation and Xbox kind of like failed on that kind of thing. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna watch the entire thing and kind of give my thoughts on it as I go along. Thought this would make something interesting, an interesting video to make. So yeah, we'll just get straight to it. I'm very interested to hear what he's got to say. By the look at this video, it's 40 minutes, so here we go. Halo inspired intro here.
What the heck is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kind of Funny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today...
I thought Paris was one of the Kind of Funny guys now, or at least was a regular with the Xbox podcast.
Today, I am joined by both of my gaming dads and one very special guest. You see him in the middle if you're watching or if you're listening. It's the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, joining the Xcast today. Phil, we'll start with you. What up, homie? How are you?
Truth be told, I've had easier couple of weeks. It'll be a good discussion today. I'm always happy to come on, talk to Xcast. You guys do an amazing job talking to the community, keeping it real. So it's an honor to be on with you guys.
Thanks, Phil. Of course, you have been on a number of Kind of Funny content, but this is the first time you have joined us with the Xcast here with the Green Team. So we appreciate your time and being here with me and my two gaming dads. Of course, I'll go around the room. Paris Lilly, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. And as you already said, thank you, Phil, for coming on this episode. Greg Miller, instead of going on your show, finally he is on the actual Xbox show for Kind of Funny. So I'm very excited and appreciative of that. Looking forward to the conversation.
Big deal. Gary Witta, you have a green juvie today. You're feeling the green.
Yeah, this kiwi straw, not my favorite flavor, I don't think, but it was the only one you had in the fridge. You know, the price was right, so I grabbed one.
You love a free energy drink.
You know me, I don't care what it is. If it's free.
I'm happy you're back, Gary. We have a really fun conversation and discussion to be had with you and the team. I see you got your book. Why don't you plug that book really quick?
No, I didn't bring this in to plug it. I just had a spare copy. I was going to give it to someone. But no, Gundog, we actually had a small change in the publishing date. Comes out August 1st. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere quality books are sold.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're just bringing the book around now. I like that. You don't want to promote it. You just carry the book around.
Yeah.
All right. Good for you. I like that. Well, of course, this is the Kind of Funny Xcast. We post each and every Thursday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, podcast services around the globe, and, of course, on roosterteeth.com. Don't forget, we are now Epic Games partners, which means you can support the team in a brand new way. If you're buying games off the Epic Games store, if you're upgrading your look in Fortnite, Rocket League, or Fall Guys, don't forget to use our Epic creator code, Kind of Funny, at checkout. And, of course, we love to shout out those who support us over on Patreon to help keep the lights on here in the spare bedroom. If you're over on Patreon, thank you for, of course, watching live with multiple of our shows. We're not doing this episode live, but thank you for your support. And thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of May, Delaney Twining. Thank you for your support. This week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Honey and Rocket Money, but myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Let's get to the show. We get to hang out with Phil Spencer. It's going to be a fun time together. Phil, let's just jump right into it. And it's a tough way to start this episode. It's my birthday this week, and I didn't want to have to do it like this. But, Phil, it's been a tough week in the Xbox universe. As you know, of course, the CMA kind of blocking our acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, and Redfall coming out to poor reviews at the launch. Let's start off.
Oh, damn, we're going straight for the jugular here, aren't we? Ooh, all right. This might be some good fucking food right here. Also, is this going to be that kind of hard-hitting interview? Ooh.
At the top, Phil, let's talk about the CMA and, of course, this Activision Blizzard acquisition. How are you feeling about this? What should be the overall mindset for Xbox gamers when we look at this after months and months of conversation?
Yeah, we remain confident Obviously, the news from the CMA, which for those not tracking all this, is the United Kingdom's regulatory board on acquisitions to block the acquisition. We'll be appealing that. That's our plan. We continue to work with the European Union. We'll continue to work with the FTC. I think there are like 14 jurisdictions all up. We're working on approval. I think we have 9 approvals so far. But the CMA decision was disappointing. I've been talking to that group for coming up on a year. They've defined a market of cloud gaming that, in my mind, doesn't really exist yet today. But they have.
Yeah, and you're taking advantage of that now and trying to define that and use that as, you know, as a business strategy for controlling what you want to come in your vision. And, you know, that's a problem. And the CMA addressed that with their results. They see what the kind of power Microsoft gets from getting Activision with Call of Duty. Like they get to kind of shape the future and its competition in the years to come. How can people not grasp that?
A point of view that maybe we have a lead in a market that is just forming, and that this content could somehow prohibit others from competing in that market. But we'll appeal. We stay on it. The company remains very, very committed. We think Activision Blizzard King is not our strategy, but it is an accelerant for our strategy. So we're still heads down and working through regulatory.
I am pleased to hear that, of course, as a big fan of many of those gaming franchises over there. I'm looking forward to seeing this deal go through, and I'm glad to hear that you and the team are still hard at work at making this happen. It's been a long road. It's been a tough road to talk about it each and every single week, kind of falling apart, but
it's always the Brits, isn't it, Mike? We're always the fly in the ointment. We just got to rain on everyone's parade.
He's not wrong there.
It's a tough one, Gary. Of course, we got to move on to the next one. Phil, of course, Redfall has released from Arcane Austin, and it's been a tough release week for that, coming out to low reviews and a lot of disappointment from many fans. Can you talk about that? What is your thoughts right now as we head into the first week of this game being out?
Yeah, maybe I'll start. I'll hit Redfall, but I'll just say all up. There's nothing that's more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community. I've been a part of it for a long time. I obviously work on Xbox, head of the business, have a lot of friends, get a lot of feedback. And just to kind of watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself. I kind of revisit our process. I think back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60 frames per second. That was kind of our punch in the chin, rightfully, a couple weeks ago. And then seeing the game come out, and the critical response was not what we wanted. And it's disappointing. And so kind of pick myself up. What can we learn? How can we get better? One thing I'll find.
I kind of get this sense of deja vu, like I've heard this before. And this isn't just Redfall. There are so many games and studios that with just in the Microsoft umbrella alone that for some reason don't get the support they need, and the games just come out with issues. And I'm thinking of Halo Infinite here. Like the recent gutting of 343 Industries, the reshaping of it, the lack of support from Microsoft that should be their flagship studio, their flagship game, and it just isn't there. And now we're looking at Redfall, and it's another disappointment for Xbox players. It's absolutely crazy. It goes on about disappointment and making promises like the 60 frames and only delivering 30. Like, you've got to. I don't know if saying this, we've fucked up enough. And I don't. Yeah, they've got to actually. They can't be his 86 million that or is it billion? I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. We want to go and buy Activision Blizzard, we want to go buy Bethesda, spend all this money, go into court, that's costing money. And then their own studios that they already have are just suffering like this. It shouldn't be happening. He's too busy wanting to put his money elsewhere in places like Game Pass when his own studios can't produce quality. It's mind-blowing. Like, this should not be happening. He should not be sat here now and be throwing his hand up in the air and going, I fucked up, even though it's like the 20th time he said it. Like, I respect Phil that he gets on camera and he says this. Like, the figure of Phil and how he represents Xbox reminds me of how Sony were with the PlayStation 4 when you had Shuhei Yoshida, Herman Hulst, Sean Layden. We had multiple figures within Sony that represented the branding, and Phil's one of those kind of guys. Yes, he's a businessman, but for him to stick around the job that he has for so long, he obviously cares and gives a shit about his job. But what he says and what he does, or what the Xbox brand does, these two things, totally, like they're the polar opposite is absolutely happening. Again, reiterating the point, they should not be bothering with Activision or the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Put that money you're spending on this into your own studios. We go back to the Xbox 360. Xbox had IPs. People. I'm a PlayStation fanboy through and through. Still didn't stop me from owning an Xbox, going out to my mates, making LAN parties across the house. Like, it got to this point where I had an Xbox in one room that I was in, like when I used to stay at theirs. One of the brothers had one in their room, and there was an Xbox downstairs, and we were all playing Xbox online together. Like, they've had IPs, they've had games. Why can't they go back and talk to, I don't know if it's Platinum Games now who own the IP, or it's Tango Gameworks, re-look at Scalebound. That was an IP everyone was excited for. It fell through, things in line. Make that work. Get that IP back on the shelves and get people talking about it again. There are so many other things they could do. Like Fable, where's that? Perfect Dark, where's that? Halo needs support. The next Gears game, where's that? Forza is the only strong IP I feel Xbox has right now that is a constant. And we can't just be, here's Games Pass, here's value for money. It's not. Even with the amount of people that I know, people that buy Xbox Game Pass are playing it for Halo and Gears. Yeah, there are so many indie games here and there, but what doesn't help is when they put games on there, a few months later, they take them off. It's stupid. And then there's obviously the business strategy. We want to buy Activision. In 2024, we wanted to put Call of Duty on there. So clearly what Jim Ryan was saying was right about Xbox's vision, the way they wanted to undercut Sony. And then you get these half-assed ideas. But you can put it on PlayStation Plus. Yeah, no, that's not Sony's thing. And quite clearly, the rest of the industry isn't quite following that. And then, here's these 10-year deals if we can get this deal through. Can they really do that as a business? Doesn't make... The way Xbox is at the moment doesn't make sense. And it's really frustrating because even PlayStation players... we want the competition. Like, I loved being torn between wanting to play all these... Because I owned a PlayStation, all my mates had Xboxes. Like, I still ended up buying an Xbox because they had a lot of good titles. And then the Xbox One generation came by and they just took their foot off the fucking pedal. And, they need to go back to making games and not trying to provide services. That's what needs to happen here. Give us a reason to buy games. Yeah, but games are 70 quid. I'm sorry, but if PC players, bearing in mind I've got like a $4,000 PC as well, like after everything's all said and done, it's all built and whatnot. PC players have expensive machines. That will not stop them buying £70 games. If people cared enough about games, didn't mean to press that. If people care enough about games, they will pay money for them. It doesn't. this might be a hard truth for people to hear, but people will not give a shit about the price. Games can be 80 quid next generation. We will still pay it if we care enough. And Xbox need to make you care about the games they offer, not the services.
What went wrong? There's clearly quality and execution things that we can do. But one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations of our teams. Then a lot of people will say, hey, you've got teams know how to do one kind of game. Just force them to go do the one kind of game that they have a proven track record for. And I'm just not a believer in that. Maybe that means I'll under-deliver for some of our fans out there, but...
No, I agree with that mindset. You should let your studios create what they want. You really should, because that's how you get new ideas, new IPs. Hell, that's Sony DNA, through and through. Food for thought. I wonder how Phil would, how do I word this? If Phil Spencer was working with PlayStation, I wonder if he's supporting the wrong team. Because what he says there, again, that's the PlayStation ethos with like their studios, their single player games they like to offer. Like they don't look to stifle innovation; they promote it. They allow their studios time, people to kind of execute ideas. Hideo Kojima and Death Stranding, as an example, I mean, that game is so far left field. It's untrue. It isn't like a game that you'd probably not expect, that you play normally. It has no brand new systems and all that kind of thing. Yes, Phil. What Phil's saying here is right. It should let studios do what they want, but as a business, they should give the studios their time and not go right. This game needs to be out by this date, and then release it in the sorry state that it's in.
When a team like Rare wants to do Sea of Thieves, when a team like Obsidian wants to do Grounded, when Tango wants to go do Hi-Fi, when everybody probably thought they were doing Evil Within 3, I want to give the teams the creative platform to go and push their ability, push their aspirations. But I also need to have a great selection of games that are continue to come that surprise and delight our fans. And we under-delivered on that. And for that, I apologize. It's not what I expect, not what I want.
That's great. He's apologizing for it. But you need to go back to your games and kind of really double down on the quality of these games, these products before they come out. He said sorry now, but it needs to be actionable. Like Xbox as a brand, as a publisher, as a company, they need to support and give these studios times to do those things. Phil's just said that he wants these games and studios to do.
But it's ours to deliver.
So following up on that, Phil, so again, I appreciate the transparency on that, but there is a second component to this. And as you may or may not know, I talk to a lot of people in the Xbox community because I want to understand, what people are excited about, what they're frustrated about, things like that. So kind of sticking on this conversation about Redfall, but it's kind of a bigger general question as well. And I kind of want to read directly from this so I make sure I get it crystal clear. So what goes into the decision to delay a game when you launch it feature incomplete or there's a bunch of technical issues? Obviously, we've seen recent examples around the industry. Redfall and Halo Infinite are two that stick out in my mind for Xbox. We obviously have seen the review scores. Clearly, we've had the opinion that the game should be delayed. We know every developer wants to ship the best game that they possibly can, but from your level, what's the balance there on when to ship a game that may be feature incomplete or have some technical issues, or just simply give it more time and delay it?
Well, I think those are, and I'm happy to go very deep on this. I think if I think about a team's execution on a game, we had a creative vision, and did we realize that vision through the game that we created? That's not a delay question if the answer is no. You can't take something that you started on. This isn't a Redfall specific conversation,
Right.
but we will build games that review in the high 80s, and we will build games that review in the 60s. I mean, it's just kind of part of being in game publishing. And if you're afraid of that, then you shouldn't be in the entertainment business. You shouldn't be in the games business. That said, every time we deliver something below our own internal expectations that surprises us, we should check our process. I don't look at the review scores on Redfall, and there are quality issues, and we're working on those. But I think there's a fundamental piece of feedback that we get that the game isn't realizing the creative vision that it had for its players. That doesn't feel like a, hey, just delay it. That feels like the game had a goal to do one thing, and when players are actually playing, they're not feeling that thing. They're not feeling the creative execution of the team. When a game needs to be delayed, what we did with Halo, we did with Starfield, we did with Redfall, because the production timeline is saying we have this vision and our production timelines don't get us to the completion of that vision, we do delay games. We do that.
But Halo, as using the example there, is still suffering. The studios just fired a whole ton of people and had a bit of a reshuffle. And supposedly there were people working on a single player component of Halo Infinite, whether it's DLC or whatever. Whether that rumor is true or not, don't know. Just going off what was over the internet. And yeah, and what's happening with the multiplayer is still struggling. And it sucks because Halo Infinite is probably one of the most mechanically interesting games I've played in the last few years. And I think it's one of the strongest FPS games there is. 100% do. I think the game's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it needs more though. It needs support. It really does. 343 need help from Xbox.
Learning about the quality, there are clearly, I've seen them. I know there are bugs in Redfall that's launching. But when I look at like the crash rates on the game, because we get all the telemetry of everything that's happened, it's not out of proportion for a game that has just launched. It's kind of in the pocket of what we would expect. That's not to deny any of the animation, streaming of texture bugs, the AI bugs that we've seen. We will go work on.
Yeah, so he's saying, right, that's AI. So the amount of bugs that a game get matches like the average of every other game that comes out. So does not, how do I word this? Does the type of bug not factor into that, or they just go, this is normal, this, regardless of what the bug is, what the problem is? Is that when they go, right, we need to wait for the feedback before we kind of deal with this? I mean, that's a bit of a kind of like, a bit of a lazy way of looking at it, right? Oh yeah, this game's got bugs, all this data's coming through it, this matches up with this game here, it's fine. But all these different, like, with the rate of how technology's grown now, I don't think that is a good process at all to have. Like, what the kind of bugs matter, the kinds of different problems matter. Like, we've got so many different gaming engines now. Like, technology's grown in so many different ways. Just for it to go, this is normal, and then this happens with Redfall. Oh, that's not good. That
on those. But when I look at the review scores of this game, it's did we have enough of creative differentiation in our core idea? And did we realize that creative ambition? I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Austin. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of the great games that they've built. This is one where the team didn't hit their own internal goals when it launched. I think it's maybe a little simplistic to just say, hey, if you would have just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different than what it was. So I look at them at different camps. If there's a production timeline issue, we've been open to delaying. If we just have more bugs than we should have at the end of a game, we're open to delaying. At some point, we have to have a creative vision and put the game out, and reviewers and players will tell us what they think.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, of course. Please, Gary.
So I have just a couple of small observations and then a question. First of all, I want to give Phil props for coming on here today and talk just for a minute about why I admire Phil, because he and I have been here before. Back in 2020 during the pandemic when I was doing Animal Talking, Phil, you'll remember this. Phil was booked to come on my dumb Animal Crossing talk show. And then after he was booked, the news came that Halo Infinite was going to be delayed and would not ship with the Xbox Series X and S. And it was you'll remember, it was a big deal. There was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth and people rending their garments. And I was fully prepared for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for a call from Xbox PR, from Jeff, your friend of mine, Jeff, over in Xbox PR, to say, Phil's not going to be able to come on the show live because, it's a big mess right now. We don't want to put him in the firing line for that. And Jeff called, and I thought, here it is. Here comes the other shoe. And he was like, Phil just wants to know, when's the tech rehearsal? It's going ahead. And he came on a live talk show and took a bunch of tough questions on a really tough subject and took it on the chin. And I've always admired him for that, it would have been very easy for him to pull out, and he didn't. He came on and he's doing it again now, and I salute Phil for that. The other,
100%. I don't. It's a shame he's working for Xbox, and Xbox is in the position that it's in, and obviously part of that is the responsibility of Phil. I come out to that comment before. I wouldn't be supporting the wrong team.
The point I want to make is that every time there may be some Sony platform warriors out there right now crowing about the fact that Redfall has underperformed. Just want to point this out as a creative. Every time somebody takes a big bet, especially a big AAA bet on an original idea, a new IP, and it fails, everybody suffers. It's bad for everybody because it makes it that much harder for the Phils and the Jim Ryans of the world, the big, the creative, the decision makers, to take a chance on them. Oh, but the last time we did that, it didn't work. Maybe let's just make a sequel to the next thing, or let the algorithm tell us what to do. So every time somebody takes a risk,
that's a very solid point. Really, it's a very solid point. Totally agree with that.
On something new, and especially if it involves something different in game design. Let's try something that has been done. When it doesn't work, it hurts everybody. So I just want everyone to be clear. This sucks for everybody, and I see it in my business, I see it in Hollywood, I see it in film and television. It's why so much content is so generic and derivative and formulaic, because everyone's afraid to take a risk. And when something new succeeds, it's good for everyone. When something new and original fails, it's bad for everyone. So I just want to acknowledge that this is like a big shit sandwich, and we all have to take a bite, including the Sony people, including everybody. Specifically with this is a long time. Specifically with a question for Phil, I want to talk specifically about Redfall. When you say that you're disappointed in the reaction, that to me suggests that the reaction was something different than what you were expecting, what you were hoping for. But I know that when these big AAA games, they get subjected to all kinds of internal testing. Focus groups come in. There are third-party companies that will come in and even write mock reviews, or come like hit detection out that will tell you, here's what you can expect the press to make of your game. So usually you've got a sense of what the game is how it's going to be received before it's released, so you can be prepared for it. So Phil, when you say you're disappointed, does that mean that you thought the game was going to be better received, or was it in line with expectations? How surprised were you by the reaction, or how internally, how much do you know? I feel like this one, we know the game it has problems. To what extent was this different from what you expected? And also, and sorry, I know I've been talking a long time. And the second part of that is, when a game is released now, it's not like the old days when a cartridge was shipped in a box and the release of the game was the end of the game's development cycle. Now it's just the 1.0 release is just a point on the roadmap. To what extent, given that what we're talking about here is not just 30 frames, but design issues, things that may be more conceptual, to what extent do you think, or are you committed to continuing to work on the game and getting it maybe a year down the road, Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky? We've seen these redemptive stories in the past. To what extent do you hold out hope that you can still get the game closer to where you wanted it to be at launch? I know that was a lot.
No, at first I thought your words about creative ambition of teams, you especially, I mean, you've lived this, you've done this, are very well said and very spot on. So thank you for that. And that's why I love your voice in this community, because you've created, you've seen kind of ups, and as anybody in the industry, we've all seen downs. And on the score, we do mock reviews for every game that we launch, and this is double digits lower than we thought we would be.
How do you mock review your own games? Isn't that reaffirming yourself? That's like you going in the mirror. Hey, I'm so good looking, I'm well fit. Me, I can pull anyone I want. And then you go outside, and the opposite gender tells you you're fucking hanging. See you in a bit. What good's that?
With this game, went through our mock reviews, and that's what's one of the disappointing things. Like,
That's just, you're feeding your own ego, like, and there's no one there to humble you if you do that's part of your process. And then this happens, and then it's, oh, I'm disappointed, oh, I'm sorry. Mock reviews. Yeah, is it confirmation bias? Is that what I'm looking for there? Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me.
Like we would never strive to launch a game that we thought was going to review in the low 60s. It's not part of our goals. If you look at our
reviews, need to abolish scores. Just give opinions, do's, don'ts, pros, cons. Get rid of scoring. And like, because the idea is people put reviews out so you can make your own informed opinion about whether or not you want to purchase something or not. Get rid of scores in reviews. All it does is incite. If you do it in a system where it's just pros and cons, right? You know, what's good, what's bad, and let, you know, the person watching the video, reading the review, like, make the decision based on that. Do it from a percentile, doing it from a score. Yeah, that system needs to go. Honestly, I think across the industry, I really do think that scoring in percentiles, like a unit of measurement, it's not good, honestly.
Review scores over the last year, it's not a defense at all. If you look at the review scores,
why make it
over the last year? I think the teams have done a better job in upping the level of quality of the games that we've shipped. Some of those games first shipped on PlayStation, but still, when I go through the list of the games, you still have to build a game, you still have to ship a game. And this game was significantly below our internal metrics in terms of where it actually reviewed. But that's not on anybody but us. Like, we have to own that. In terms of our commitment to the game, absolutely. The team at Arcane is on taking the near-term feedback. We're still working on the 60 frames per second. We have a good timeline for that. We're committed to getting that done. And we're going to continue to work the game. I think we've shown a commitment to games like Sea of Thieves and like Grounded to continue to go and build games. But I also know that these games are $70, and I'm not gonna I'm gonna take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great. You know, I think.
But then why could? That's the sentiment's nice to hear. Oh yeah, I understand it's $70. But then why say all this before it, then say that?
What I have with the Xbox community, what I am a part of, is a team. There's still questions that pop.
I love it as well. I know from a sales pitch, like gaming to everybody. We want our games on every single platform. You know, we love games everybody back. And then when it comes to ridicule, the Xbox community, it's self-contained.
Every so often of how committed is the company to this category? When are we just going to push Xbox out of the market? There's a lot of Twitter firing of Phil right now, which is fine. I'm way overpaid for the role I have anyway, so like I get that's my responsibility. But we will remain committed to the game and the players as long as the players want to go play games. And that's my commitment to the community. I'm kind of at a low point right now in terms of my delivery on that commitment to the community. But it very much stays. I want to support the team. I want to support the creative ambitions of the teams, and I want to support the players. And we let a lot of people down this week with the launch of the game, but we will continue to strive on. You have to, right? That's just.
For Xbox, need to get Starfield right in terms of like hype and expectation, and there's going to be so much more riding on Starfield, and it's a Bethesda game as well. Yeah. If that game even has even much as a fucking hiccup in frames, delay it. Like, if things need to turn around with that title specifically. Like, Starfield is what Cyberpunk was for CD Projekt Red, you know, in terms of like a really highly expected game. Don't know if that makes any sense, but you get what I mean.
That's what creative is about.
No, you absolutely do. And to kind of start transitioning this into hopefully more happy news, but I do want to address something, you know, around that. Obviously, today you announced the Xbox Game Showcase, which will be happening this June. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of new reveals and surprises that come out of that, which is great. But I am going to bring it back again to another common theme that I do hear through the community. And I've actually said this to you in the past, but it's about communication. coming from Xbox. I do feel back in 2021, you did a fantastic job with communication, which arguably has been the best year during this current generation of Xbox. Obviously, we know that 2022 was a light year for Xbox as far as releasing titles. Now, last year, during the showcase, you had the 12-month plan. You didn't necessarily deliver on all the games coming.
No, we didn't deliver.
12
Not
months.
necessarily. We didn't deliver.
Absolutely. So my point of bringing that up is this, talking about some of the lessons learned that come out of that. And obviously, even with not every game making the 12 months, going back to, again, game development, things happen, things aren't always going to come on time. But as we go into this showcase, one of the common themes that I hear is, I don't know enough about things that you've announced in the past, like even more specifically going back to 2020. And I'll just run down a quick list of it. Vowed, Perfect Dark, Everwild, which is something we really don't know that much about. Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband. Obviously, we've seen a little more in Hell.
Oh, so those titles which are actually a thing? Oh, wow, okay. Well, haven't they kind of spoke more about it? Yeah, well, fucking hell, okay.
Play 2. We have studios like In Exile and Compulsion Games that we know are working on things, but we haven't seen any real updates on that. So I titled all my questions Balance and Communication, because even in this, it's like, what is that balance on when you show something that is going to be years down the road, and kind of that cadence of providing updates along the way. And obviously, as we go into this showcase, not that you need to reveal anything specific here, but what were some of those lessons learned from last year's showcase that you'll bring into this one?
Yeah, and you might try to get me on positive. I'm not in positive mode this week, so I'll apologize for staying in kind of cranky mode. But in terms of lessons learned, and I'll even go back to the Redfall videos on IGN of showing videos of the game running at 60 on PC, at the point knowing that the game was going to run 30 frames per second at launch on console. Like, we have to be transparent about what we're showing, that what we're showing is...
Oh, man. Oh, I don't know if he should have really said that. I respect, wow, yeah, Phil, wow, I appreciate the honesty then. I don't know if he should have come out and said that, but they knew. They knew. So why did the game come out?
Is representative of what our console customer, our most committed customer to our brand, financially committed, what they're going to see, what they're going to play, and that transparency just has to get better. And I'm not pointing at anybody but myself, right? I guess at some point I will have enough knocks against me that it's somebody else here. But that, I think it's transparency in what we're building, what our aspiration is for the game, what it's going to look like, what the features are. And it drives me crazy when we self-inflicted wounds of kind of putting things out there of communication that's confusing or misleading about what the actual end product is going to be. So you can try to take me to positive space. I'm just not in that headspace right now. That said, when I go and I look at Showcase, and I'm not going to try to oversell Showcase here, because if I were on the other side of watching this, it's like, hey, after Redfall, I'm going to put my hands on the controller, and that's what's going to take to kind of prove to me. But that's not what Showcase is. So I'm very enthusiastic about Showcase. We're going to announce some things that people haven't seen, some new games. We're going to give updates to some of the things that were on your list. The other thing that gets me really excited is when I look forward over the next quarters, which has always been my focus of how do we get a big game out every quarter at quality, that things are lining up finally after some of the slowdown through COVID. I'm tired of talking about that. But I can now see that we've got games coming every quarter that I think will surprise and delight our customers. We still have to deliver on the creative. We still have to deliver on the technical. Not every game we ship is for everybody. We know that. Like, I'm not trying to build the one game to rule them all. We will have different creative takes and we have a very diverse portfolio when you think about the stuff that Microsoft Game Studios builds. But I like that. I think for what we're trying to do as Xbox, which isn't to mimic any of the other platforms out there, it's create our own brand and identity. The diversity of what we build, hopefully, will end up being a strength. But we have to do it at quality. We have to do it on time, and we have to show people what they're actually going to see. We have to show gameplay, and I think I'm kind of beyond that. Like, we've got to put great games in the hands of our players. There's nothing else.
If I could follow up on that, and I apologize, I do not want to dominate the conversation, but I make sure I want to follow up on the point of everything that you just said, and I'll take it from a personal standpoint. I've been a big believer in what Xbox has been building since about 2016, right? Xbox Play Anywhere, Game Pass, what you're doing with the Series X and S, just the cloud initiative, everything. I love all the services and the marketing message that you present to the community. But to your point, and for me personally, I have Game Pass. My kids play it. We all love it. But you even mentioned, delivering quality experiences every quarter, things like that. That's the sentiment that we get from the community right now. That's the sentiment that I even have of, it's great to talk about these things. I think we've been talking about them ad nauseum. It's like, when are we going to get to that point of actually delivering these experiences? Like I just ran down those games. There's 20 something studios. Forget Activision. Xbox Game Studios, what it is today. There's more than enough studios and titles out there that we're all anticipating. And I think that is the common frustration that I see out there from people, that it's like, we're tired of hearing wait till next year. And I know you know that, but
I know,
it's like,
I know.
Yeah.
And this year started out well.
Yeah.
I thought Developer Direct was received well. The team did a really good job, I thought, with the messaging around to your point, around setting expectation. And I will even say, yes, I'm rooting for the home team here, but I'll say over delivering on expectations of that show versus what it was. I think the drop of Hi-Fi to say, hey, if you've got Game Pass, you don't even have to buy the game. Like, just go click. People loved Hi-Fi. Something we don't talk a lot about, that same month, Age 2 on console shipped. Truth be told, more people are playing a bunch of people are playing Hi-Fi and Age 2, but Age 2 actually has more players right now. But all the fanfare goes to the highly rated kind of new Hi-Fi. Get that.
So why doesn't he make a deal with that then before announcing it? To give this game the spotlight. I wonder why. Maybe it's not his job to. What? He's making that point now. Is it not something he could do?
I know the review scores on Minecraft Legends. Minecraft, I think, always reviews somewhere kind of different than the top. But if I look at the reaction, I think we've already had over 3 million people playing. I saw, like, its launch week, it was the #1 retail game on the Switch in Japan, which isn't always where Microsoft sits in terms of sales. So I feel like momentum is building, and then something like Redfall happens, and the Xbox community should demand a lot from us as a team, where we sit inside of Microsoft. We've got the resources to do better. 2022 was, as you said, a very light year, I think is what you said. I might have other words for it. And then 2023, we started well, and this was a knockback. But it's our job to go and deliver on the next games. I can only look forward, right? I can sit here and wallow in my own frustration. But all I can do is say, I'm going to do better tomorrow than I did yesterday, and continue to support the teams and continue to grow. But yeah, I think it is ours to prove that. I can say now, and everybody can already stop, I don't want to hear what Phil has to say about the future, and I kind of fully respect that point of view, that we've got Starfield coming, we've got Forza coming, we've got Hellblade coming, like, we've got collections of games. I'm seeing very good builds of Avowed and stuff. Like, we're in, like, I can see it. But until you have a controller in your hand and you're smiling from playing our games, none of my words should matter.
Shout out to Honey for sponsoring.
Yeah, as shit as this situation is for Phil, honestly, he's a figure the game industry needs to keep around, and Xbox needs to keep him. There was a comment made before about fire Phil. No, you absolutely fucking shouldn't. Xboxers need a figure like him for quite a long bloody time, actually. Who was the guy that they had? The tall dude with the brown hair, down hair, skinny dude. Can't think what his name is. Damien something, I think. don't know. No, Phil is a likable guy. It's just the product's not. Let me just like skip this if this is. Oh God, what's happened there? Ads. Skip that. So, right.
Funny.
Paris was just talking about what have you learned. And I want to go back to that in the case of Redfall, even as just a case study for things like this when they happen in general. Because Redfall wasn't even the only game to stumble out of the gate this week. Look at the PC version of Jedi Survivor. What a mess. Unacceptable that that game shipped in the state that it was. And they must have known. It was like, oh, geez, the game has bugs. No, you knew, and you shipped it anyway. So EA Respawn, for example, even on a massive title like that, it's going to be a Game of the Year contender. We all know that. But like the PC version was unacceptable. My understanding is the PlayStation version's a bit of a mess as well. So we're still seeing this stuff happening on the regular. Just in general.
Technology's grown too fast and game developers haven't caught up with it. I think, yeah, the hardware acceleration is just skyrocketing and there's not enough like manpower, money and resources dedicated to build what these game companies want to build. Clearly, it's like even like coming from a PC point of view, we're already looking at path tracing, and when we had 2 generations of ray tracing, we've gone from DLSS and I can't think what's the A&E version now of image scaling. And now there's new iterations and better versions of them already, and that's been in the space of 2 years. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X have outdated technology, and then obviously these games like Jedi Survivor are trying to use that, and they just can't. Yeah, no one's got a grip of all of it. I think the only massive advance in technology that we've had these last few years has been the Unreal 5 engine. The Unreal 5 engine is absolutely an incredible piece of technology, really is. But in terms of hardware and stuff, I don't think game companies know what the hell they're doing with it. This sounds like a really fanboyish thing to say, but you only need to look at the quality of the games. But I think the only company that seems to have any understanding of the beast that they've created is PlayStation. When you look at games like Horizon Forbidden West and what that DLC just recently done, it's insane.
I'm fascinated, as you might know, I'm fascinated by the subject of failure because I've experienced a lot of it in my own career and in my personal life as well, and I think about it a lot. The number one quote that I stole from a person much smarter than me, I talk about it all the time when I talk about writing at creative seminars and things like that, is failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. But that's only true if you can get past feeling sorry for yourself when something fails and sift through the rubble and start figuring out, well, what can we learn?
Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing. It rings fucking true here.
And what can we learn from this failure? What can we take from this? What is teachable? And so I wanted to ask Phil, both in general and in the case of Redfall, I know you said you're going to work towards kind of turning the game around, but do you have a formal process? And what does it look like in the case of Redfall when something doesn't meet expectations? Is it something you get into right away, or do you wait for the dust to settle? What is the post-mortem process? What is the what went wrong, and how do we prevent this from happening again process look like at Xbox?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think I love your quote, Gary. I might lift that from you. People don't have to care about this, but I'll talk about it. When we acquire studios, there's games that are in development when we acquire a studio, and then there's things that are either really early in development or not even conceived yet. And I think we need to improve on engaging in games that are midway through production when they become part of Xbox. I do think there's a different expectation for a game and even a team when you've been third party and all of a sudden you become part of first party. There's a different expectation in terms of how you're going to perform on our console. I think there's a different competitive set when people look.
Again, from a business point, that pause. Right. Anyway, how can Phil say there's a different expectation moving from third to first, but yeah, with a business strategy that they've got, their idea is to put Xbox as a service in as many systems and platforms as they possibly can, and without the focus being on the console. Is that not punishing to the developer you've just bought there to kind of put that kind of pressure on them? If the company themselves don't care too much about the consoles and how many consoles they put out, they only care about the service Xbox puts out. that entire process again needs to be reevaluated.
Look at what this game is and the other games that they're going to say, hey, I want this game to feel as competitive as this other game on another console platform in our case. And we didn't do a good job early on in engaging with Arcane Austin to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources.
Maybe I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like washing over it, over like the intricacies of this here. But that to me sounds like that's what happens when you just spend money and don't bother. Like, you spent the money buying these studios, but you've not invested in them clearly. Like, there's been no communication at all. And yeah, that sucks. So yeah, it really does.
To help them and kind of move along that journey even faster. So we kind of left them to go work on the game. They're a very talented team. I love that team, and I still do. And I will totally bet on them to do another great game. But when like Matt Booty and Jamie Leaders, running ZeniMax, and I sit down, I think we could engage earlier with our different studios. And I do think there's a difference when we come in when the creative's already set on a game. That's not washing our hands of any of the creative. Every game we ship from our teams is an Xbox game. And so it's a full responsibility for it. But thinking about how our internal processes of dev assistance, even some of our internal ATG resources, what's the Advanced Technology Group, and how those work with our internal teams, I think we can do a better job with our internal teams. We did a better job with Starfield. Again, nobody should believe it until they're playing the game. But that game was earlier on in production, and it was easier for us to kind of swarm a bunch of people to go and kind of help with some of the technology on our platform and ensure that we're going to ship a quality experience there. And we should have been there for Harvey and the team earlier. I think that's on us. And then through the process.
Cool. No, that's cool. Like you said, that's cool. That's fair enough. Yeah, after all that, that Brandon said before about that process. No, like it's cool.
It's an Unreal game. We have a bunch of studios that have done some really great work on Unreal over the years. And I think we were too late to help in that when they had certain issues that they were working through, which any team will. It's nothing to do with the specific engine. But we have a lot of experience, and we needed to get on that earlier with the team. And we didn't do that. And that's not an excuse. And you asked just to kind of diagnose. So when the 60 frames per second issue came up, we were definitely diving in. We had people from the Coalition and people from Rare and stuff looking, both teams that have done some really great work with Unreal to help us build a 60 FPS plan. But obviously that was a plan that had to be in place last fall in order for us to really be in a position to have it at launch. And I take that as learning, as painful as it is. But as you said, it's part of getting to success are those learnings and that diagnosis. There's a bunch of other stuff I could go into, but then we end up with kind of dev doc, which I'm happy to do. But yeah.
Well, Phil, we don't have much time with you, so I'm going to go around the table, give everybody one final question for Phil. I'm going to rattle off a couple quick ones with you, Phil. Of course, we talk about 60 frames, 30 frames. Should Xbox players expect a clear message this summer with Starfield with 30 and 60 frames? That's a big lesson learned, as you brought up. Should we expect that answer? It's clear as day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great one. Another one, you see a lot of
that.
conversation, of course. I want to praise you and the team for really elevating the PC side of this Xbox ecosystem. I think we've seen a lot of great strides in that. But when you see the community talk about the console side of things, do you think you've lost the focus or maybe put too much onto the PC side? Do you think that the console is still getting the console love that it deserves, whether it be the homepage update, achievements, of course, looking forward and using the power of this next gen? Do you think you guys have lost that focus, or is it still there, and can we see more love on that side?
Well, we'll definitely continue to focus on making our console experience as great as it can be. I like the homepage refresh and some stuff. I will say, this might be disruptive as well. We have a different vision. Paris talked about this. It's play the games you want with the people you want anywhere you want. We want Xbox to be something that people who buy our console can feel like they're a member of. Obviously, who are playing on PC, who are playing on cloud, that they feel like they're full members of our ecosystem. Game Pass players.
But here's a problem right out the gate. Even with Game Pass, your crown jewel, there are differences between the Game Pass you get on PC than there is for console. Like, there are tons more games if you can play on the console version than there are on PC.
Can
So yeah, that whole welcoming thing doesn't add up.
play on many different devices, and we remain fully committed to that. We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on any.
Yeah, but this is only, you've spent 2 generations of just flopping. Again, yeah, and I realised, didn't realise that a Fable game and all that kind of, they were all going. But games like that you've had on the 360, those IPs could have gone forward with all these new ideas and games that you just haven't had. Scalebound, you let that one drop. I'm sorry, you can't look and point your finger at Sony and Nintendo because they've made hush deals. Oh. He's looking at Square Enix there when he says that, even though most of the Final Fantasy titles are on Xbox anyway, but never mind. Going to the point, you can't point fingers at Xbox, PlayStation and Nintendo because they've had solid IPs and they've brought new ideas to the table as well. It's not their fault. Xbox has failed doing that. This is one of the problems I have with the whole Activision acquisition. They go on about Sony and Nintendo's dominance in the marketplace. The quote is just said there about being third player. That's Xbox's fault. You can't blame other companies' successes for Xbox failing. That's not on. I do not accept that reasoning at all.
Anybody else? Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform.
But when you have your first-party titles aren't delivering, they don't feel that.
But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just...
Yes, because that's passion. People will put the money down there to buy these things they care about. They don't care about the service, they care about the game. No, he's wrong. People will throw money at games they love. They will.
Not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow
you should focus on doing that rather than focusing on buying studios, because you already have the talent, and you let studios just collapse, wither away, and die. You're
gonna win the console race. I think doesn't really.
But there's no console war though. Apparently, every other buddy new generation, he says that. Well, quite clearly there is here. He is wrong here.
Lay into the reality of most people, like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the 3 ecosystems, and they're.
No, you're one of 2 You've got 2 of the 3 ecosystems. Most people who own an Xbox or PlayStation probably have a Switch. You only need to look at Switch's sales to kind of get that one. But, and on that point of someone's most even will run with this theory that someone who walks into a game shop and is already part of one of those ecosystems. I come back to the PlayStation 3 and 360 era. Again, I speak for myself, people that I knew, you were torn for choice because everyone knew PlayStation, Xbox both had amazing games on either of them, and it was always, where are my friends? What are they playing? And then if you own a PlayStation, it's PlayStation were like to your Xbox friends, you were like, oh yeah, but have you played this game? The competition was amazing. The selection of games people had was incredible. It really was. And then you kind of look at 360 dominated early on, and for quite a while, that generation with the games they were putting out, and the Sony had fucked up with the price of the PlayStation 3. The messaging was all over the place, and then it came towards the end of the generation when Sony started firing out games like The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid 4, things like that. They started bringing out really hard-hitting titles, and the PlayStation 3 ended up outselling the Xbox 360 despite the 360's dominance. For so long, especially as the premier online, online service, Xbox Live, it dominated that. The Halo games, Gears of War, it was crazy. I'm sorry. I disagree. If you had your quality of games, Phil, if Xbox had their quality of the games, people would buy it. People would buy your console. They'd buy into your service. They'd go and get Xbox Games Pass. It's when you let down your studios like 343 Industries and games like Halo come in the state that it's in, the way it still suffers, the way 343 has still suffered. Yet titles like Redfall come out, it should not be happening to this extent, this often. No one, even as a PlayStation fanboy, I don't like seeing this happening to Xbox. I love competition, I love exclusivity, but going on buying publishers out, grabbing it already existing IPs without investing in yourself first sucks, and I don't like it.
Their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world.
No, it's because you're trying to shape it something different with just Xbox as a service now. I'm sorry, that's the world you're in for Nintendo and PlayStation players. It might not be for Xbox. That might not serve your vision. But no, I'm sorry. This is happening.
World where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not.
No one will sell the PS5. They'll go get an Xbox Series S because it's cheap enough. Or if it goes on PC, people will buy a PC and get it on Xbox Games Pass because you put those options out there.
It's going to happen. So what we have to do, and we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they're on. And the console is the core of the Xbox brand. There's no doubt. So we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. But I know some people want to hold us up of just being a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say, there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games.
No, it's the services. You need to focus on your games. Man, this is so frustrating. And I know he's I'm not in the industry and all this kind of thing. I might not know as much as him, but I can only see this as a person that loves games for loves gaming for games, and all this that he's talking about and what he's trying to offer isn't hitting with us gamers. It's not hitting right.
Sorry, I was a little long-winded.
No, that was perfect. And unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to you, Phil. I know that we have a hard out here, but I want to end it with something positive, Phil, because I've gotten cranky, Phil, this whole episode, and I freaking love you, and I appreciate you being on and being hard with us, but I do need something positive out of you, Phil. So before you leave, tell me and the Xbox community something positive that you're looking forward to, that you're playing, anything fun to bring a smile to your face.
Dude, I'm an optimist. I will always see, I'll use this for you, the gap between the trees. I'll always see the fresh pow. This is why I'm here. I love the games that are ahead of us. I'm having a great time playing the games that are available in Game Pass today. I look in Ravenlock coming, Benedict's here. I just love playing video games. One of the things I am excited about is the ROG Ally, something I've got my hands on, if people have had a chance to play with that. And I just love the fact that here's another device that people are going to get to go experience great games on, whether it's your Steam Deck or
Again, he's got, oh, here's this new device and here's the service I can put on it. No, what about your games? What about your games? Like, everyone can play, he goes, oh, everyone can play these games, but what games are they? What games are people enjoying? There's no one's enjoying playing anything on Xbox at the moment.
That or your Xbox. You know, I see the growth in video games. I get to spend time with creators who are excited about the opportunity that they have. I get to go play some amazing games. Some of those are Game Pass, some of those not. And I just think the gaming space has never been more diversely creative than it is right now, and it's a privilege to be a part of it.
I love hearing that. Paris, end us with this episode. What do you got to say? And let's get out of here.
Yeah, just a quick statement as we get out of here. First and foremost, Phil, thank you for doing this. This is clearly not the conversation we thought we were going to have when we scheduled this, but we do appreciate your candor and just being 100% honest about the current state of what's going on with Xbox. I am hopeful in the future we can have more conversations about what ID at Xbox is doing in their initiatives, Game Camp New Orleans, things like that are more positive and enabling more creators, because that's what I really wanted to talk about in this episode. But as we go into June, I am looking forward to the showcase. I am looking forward to the reveals that are coming. And you know, I still think the future is bright for Xbox and Xbox Game Studios and what you'll have to present. This is a bump in the road, but I still think the future is going to be bright. So again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, Paris.
All right. Well, on behalf of my two gaming dads, thank you, Phil Spencer, for joining us on this week's Kind of Funny Xcast. Of course, thank you all for tuning.
Yeah, that's more or less it. Yeah, no, you know, you can quite visibly see, you know, that Phil Spencer is, you know, he's not in the best of states and stuff like that, and he is in a pretty shit position. And like, if people calling out for his job, no, sort of, get out of here. No, he's good. He is good for Xbox. It's just right. His business strategy is just not. It's not falling right on gamers. Like, yeah, I hope things turn around for him. I really, and I want Xbox to have competition. You know, I do want them to have games. I want to make them me kind of sit and go, oh yeah, God, that game looks actually really good. Because the only game I've played from Xbox that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed or has taken my interest has been Halo Infinite. It really has. I sing that game's praises a lot because, again, I think it's so mechanically an interesting game. It's fun. You know, the map designs are absolutely awesome. It's just there needs to be more of it. It needs to be more variety. I always struggle with that word. Yeah, and it needs some performance improvements and stuff like that. Its ranking system still needs sorting out. Features, you know, more features added, all that kind of that spiel. But yeah, I appreciate always hearing the black and white side from game developers, from studios and things like that. Particularly, you know, from Phil, like, you'd never get this out of Jim Ryan. Like you wouldn't do that. You know, you've got to respect Phil Spencer for this. You'd never see Jim Ryan come out and say this. He wouldn't. And, you know, it's awesome of Phil to do this. And I do think he might have shared maybe a little bit too much. Like, sharing that whole, when you know, 30 FPS was coming, even though we're showing a 60 FPS game. I mean, again, respect, you know, for that, for the honesty. You don't get that enough across the gaming industry because it's so business orientated now. He might have overshared a little bit too much, but we do need more of that. So that's a norm. So there isn't that, oh, should he have said that? Is Phil going to lose his job kind of thing? Like, he shouldn't do. Xbox need to keep him around, and I hope to God any stresses that he has is solely to do with the fact, you know, of the way this game is, and his job's not in any danger of any kind, or some, you know, bad pressure coming from people above him. I know it wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be right. But yeah, I thought this would be something different, you know, to kind of react to this, because again, I saw like a brief clip on Twitter. I was like, I had to watch this, and yeah, thought I'd get this recorded, put this up on YouTube, see what you all think. You know, have a conversation with people and stuff like that in the comment section below. I don't know, something different. And yeah, I appreciate you guys, you know, sat there watching this for a whole hour. You know, I know it's not quite the YouTube thing to do nowadays, long form content, because it doesn't hold attention spans and things like that, and it might suck after I rewatch this thing all over again to only get my voice in between it and add in another 15 minutes. But you know, it was something I wanted to do because I love getting the gaming industry, and I love when developers, people like Phil, come out and talk very openly and honestly, and it's not business talk or buzzwords. So yeah. Anyway, I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.